Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Big Questions, Small Steps. My name is Amanda and I'm very glad that you could join me today. Today's video is a little different than some of the other videos that I've posted. Today's video comes as a special request from my amazing boyfriend, from my Jewish community, from people who know me and my journey. But also with an awareness of something is going on in the Middle East. And coming from my Christian background, many people don't fully understand what's going on. And so I wanted to make this video to enlighten some people and just bring a greater understanding about the situation in general. It's horrible what's happening right now in Israel. It's terrible. The amount of lives that are lost is heart-wrenching. The way that they are treating other people is terrible. But behind every action, there's a reason. When I was a teacher, I was always that the behavior was telling us something. It was our job to figure out what it was trying to tell us. So today we're going to look back a little bit in history to find out what's been going on, to see if we can figure out what's happening now in today's situation. It's, again, hard to wrap your mind around, but we will do our best. Okay, so way back in the very beginning, the land that is currently Israel was part of what was known as the Ottoman Empire. Okay, now when World War I happened, the Ottoman Empire was defeated. Okay, the land that is now Israel was granted, gifted, whatever you want to call it, to the British. They were the ones that were the rulers, for lack of a better term, over this area. Okay. And after a while, the British people pretty much said, you know what? You guys are doing fine ruling yourself. You don't need to interject. They didn't like how the Jewish community that settled there, it was kind of like siblings. They were fighting a lot between the Arab countries, what's known as Palestine. They were constantly like picking battles with the Israeli people, and it was going back and forth. But basically, Britain said, "You know what? You're doing just fine, monitoring yourself. We're gonna just excuse ourselves from that." And on May 19th, 1948, Israel formally declared their independence. They are their own state. Now, this is important because Palestine has never declared itself a state. Never. They are viewed as a territory of other countries. It's not a state. They may have their own flag. It's not a state. It's not a state. So that's a big tricky part. In gifting the land to Israel, the countries that surrounded then Israel in 1948 were inhabited by mostly Arab people, in Jordan and other countries around there. And basically they were angry that Israel went ahead and said, no, we're gonna be our own state. We didn't just let everybody else take over. And so what they did is, the day after Israel declared their independence, 5 countries that surrounded Israel, when it was 1 day old, decided to invade and declare war. Yeah, really, really kind, right? So that's what happened there. Israel defeated all the different 5 countries, and they basically went back to their own countries, and they said fine, but they were still angry about it because they felt like they should be able to take Israel over, even though Israel was its own state. They felt that they should be able to get whatever they wanted. It reminds me of like a 2-year-old kind of thing, no, this is what I want, so I'm going to take it. And if you don't give it to me, I'm going to just sit over here and pout and throw a fit and things like that. And that's what I recall. That's what I envision in that situation. So the countries had little tiffs back and forth throughout time. In 1990 to 2010, they were engaging in peace talks to have peace in the Middle East. Now, you might wonder, what was involved in these peace talks? What were they talking about? So basically, Israel was saying, you know what? You can have whatever land you want. We just want to be recognized as a state. We're our own country and we have our own governing body, and just let us live in peace. And the Palestinian countries that were around it, the different Palestine. So it's basically Palestine and Israel that's the fighting, okay? But Palestine has buddies that surround Israel. Palestine basically came to that interview and said, no. We want all the country. We want all the land. We want all the people. We don't want to acknowledge that Israel is the country. We want everything. And we don't even want you living there. We don't want you living anywhere. We just want you gone. Gone. Yeah. So it's kind of tough to have a negotiation when you have one side who's like, I'll give you whatever land you want. I'll do whatever you want. I just want you to acknowledge that I'm an independent country. And the other side says, we want everything, but we don't want you. We want you dead. I don't know how to go negotiate with that. So they would have talks back and forth, and President Clinton helped negotiate one, and they thought it was going to be a great agreement and we were finally going to have peace, and then it all fell apart again. Okay? It fell apart. They stopped talking. They basically walked away from the table. They, being Palestine, basically walked away from the table and said, if you're not going to give us everything we want and we can have full control of the country and it's no longer called Israel, I'm now the leader, then I'm not going to be a part of this. Okay, so they went their separate way. Israel is inhabited by people who are Jewish as well as Arab of descent. There's also people who are of other backgrounds that live in Israel, and they live perfectly fine. So it's that tit for tat back and forth between the Jewish people and Palestine. Now, in 2006, there was an election, okay? And the person that was elected was a Hamas leader. Now, Hamas is not a political organization. It's a terrorist group. They're specifically focused on eliminating or extinguishing the Jewish people. And they will do whatever they need to extinguish the Jewish people. They will kill their own people. They will kill Jewish people. They will do whatever in order to get what they want. Okay, so 2006, they had an election. A Hamas leader was elected as I believe it was the prime minister at the time or the president. But since then, there have been no elections. Coincidence? I think not. Because when you have a military leader, why would you go about and even entertain another election where someone else could become the leader of your country? You wouldn't want that. So some people say that in about 1967, there was this war called the 6-Day War. And it basically was a war over the West Bank. It's a strip of land in Israel that at one time was Palestine, but in the 6-Day War, Israel regained that land. Okay? And so some people, mostly people who are Palestinian, they believed that, well, now there's Jewish people living here and they shouldn't be able to live here because that wasn't initially part of their thing. Forgetting that, A, it was historically and biblically tied to the Jewish people, and Z, it was won and regained in the in the 6-Day War. So having those different things play a part of it, people forget. They think even if they didn't win something, they should still be able to keep what they had. So there's that tit for tat that's going on. And now this war is going on between Israel and Palestine. And unfortunately, there's massive casualties on both sides. No casualty is a good casualty. But the way they're being portrayed is vastly different. People are saying that Israel is like cutting off their food and their water and all these other things. Well, yes, to a degree they are, because they have to be able to get Hamas out. And Hamas is not caring about their people. They're treating them horribly. They are preventing their people from leaving different areas. So, for example, there are bombs that, not bombs, there are rockets that are being sent from Israel's side and the Hamas side, the Palestinian side, okay? Palestine is typically bombing schools and synagogues and hospitals, lots of places where a lot of civilians are, okay? Israel, when they try to counteract, so they have, I forget what it's called, but there is this mechanical thing, for lack of better terms, that it's deployed to specifically interact with other missiles. So they shoot something off. So if Palestine shoots something off, Israel will shoot something off. And it's not that Israel is trying to hit a target. Israel is trying to hit the other missile to eliminate the casualties as much as possible. Okay? Now, some of Israel's missiles are aimed at specific structures. These structures are specifically designated to be places where there would be militia activity. So weapons, things like that. But you know what Israel is doing? They're not just bombing people with no notice. They will literally call up people who live in the building and say, we're going to be targeting your building. We have reason to believe there is ABCD in here. Please get the people out. And they'll give them a bit of time. Now, the tricky part is Hamas is not letting people leave. Most recently, they were doing an attack in a northern portion, and Israel was telling people, like, no, you need to move south. Like, we're going to be coming in. It's going to be conflict. You need to get out of there for your safety. Hamas set up road barriers to prevent its people from leaving, because Hamas doesn't care if its people die. They believe that if their people die, it makes the plea or the appeal for their side to be stronger. They're not caring about their people. They're not doing any of that. Hamas is even going as far as, when they invade in Israel, they are taking children. They are taking children and they're raping them, and then they're killing them. They are invading homes and taking wives and cutting out their genitalia and then killing them. They are live streaming on Facebook, attacking a grandmother's house and then live streaming their torture of her. It's so inhumane. It doesn't even fit in my brain. So when people say, I stand with Palestine, I have to believe in my heart of hearts that they just don't know. So that's what this video is all about. Just bringing awareness. No one is perfect. And yes, casualties on any side is not a good thing. But this is beyond anything I could imagine. What I'm hearing of the attacks is just beyond anything I can comprehend. So yes, I proudly stand with Israel. And I hope after watching this video you do too. And if you do, I will post some links of places that you can support them through your prayers, through your thoughts, through monetary donations if you choose. This is a fight that nobody should have to fight. This is an experience that no one should have to live through. This is beyond all comprehension. Beyond all comprehension. But I know that God will see us through. Until next time.